Welcome, everybody, to a very special Uncensored Radio. We have Ask Sandy, which is going to be a segment where we have you viewers send in us questions and then we respond to them in turn. Sandy is our resident social worker who will be joining us. So, Sandy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from and the time zone that you're in. So this is a really interesting show that we have, and I think that it will invite a lot of really good, rich discussion. I think there's a lot of help seeking that's being promoted here, which is great. And I think I should just say from the outset that in my profession, social work, we don't really provide advice per se to people. We like to look to their own strengths and in turn, look at how they can sort of move through and work through whatever challenges are being presented to them. So I will provide my thoughts and supply some details for services and things that I think could assist or provide support for you. But this will mainly be about just discussing your scenario and sort of, hopefully working through, I think, some options for you. The support contacts that I've provided are mainly Australian. But I think some of the other panel members have helped out with some details in their local areas as well. So that might be useful.
I was going to say, Sandy, so we have a full panel here, which I'm about to introduce. We will, I do need to just quickly disclaimer this. All information provided by our panel is the thoughts of the own person. I do have a little banner that can come up. So look, and it's just an opinion. We're not giving concrete advice. By all means, access the services to get that professional help that you require that we will be showing here. But there will be opinions given today. And on that note, let's introduce everybody. So we have Stephen to my left there.
Hi.
Then we have Katelyn to my right. Then we have Katie beneath me. And then we have Vera. There we go. Hi, Vera. Alrighty, so should we just get started, guys, straight away?
Yeah, let's
First
do it.
question. Absolutely. Okay, so I also want to preface as well, a lot of the pseudonyms that these people have sent in were chosen by them because the first one I'm about to show, it seems a little bit like, but she did call herself this, so I just want everyone to know that.
Luke.
Yes.
I think Sandy wanted to call her. Yeah, sorry, I was going to call her real name for a second. Jane. Wanted to call her Jane.
Okay, so that's fine. We can call her Jane, but
that was just me, guys.
Yeah.
That's just a social work thing. I just can't call this lady Asian girl. So
okay.
No, I get it.
I'll let you speak this one, Luke.
Do you want me to read the question? Okay.
Yeah, well, that would be great if you could.
Okay.
I can take some notes and concentrate on it.
Dear Sandy and panel, hello. I am a Southeast Asian girl with a dilemma. I am living in a Western country and finding it hard to find a man to settle with in a regional area. I wish to do IVF, but am nervous my family back home will be upset about this. What should I do? Keep waiting and hope as my biological clock ticks away. From Asian girl, which we're going to now refer to as Joan.
Jane.
Sorry.
Joan works too.
Jane. JJ. All right, Sandy, take it away.
All right. So Jane, there's your pseudonym for the show. It really seems like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place right now. And it sounds like you're concerned about a few things here, from the family and cultural side of things to the processes of Western culture as well. And adjusting to those, I'm guessing. Relationships as well. You've said you've been looking for someone and haven't had success with that just yet. And you've also raised some concerns about your age and fertility. So there's quite a lot here, even though there was just basically one paragraph. There's a lot going on for you at the moment. And I also want to point out that living in a regional area can also be a barrier for a lot of reasons. But in relation to IVF, it's pretty significant. There's been quite a lot of research in Australia on the issue of access to IVF in rural and regional areas, because a lot of the facilities related to IVF are in cities. So that's something I think also to be adding to the mix when you're considering your situation as well. I think that with the potential here also of sole parenting, I'm sure this is something that you seem curious about anyway in your question. So that's something else to perhaps think about. I'm thinking here that maybe a call to IVF Australia for a chat about your situation and the IVF processes would assist you with making an informed decision, and around that planning as well. And conception in itself is a complex process, and the preparation and the planning and everyone's needs are going to be quite unique going into this, dependent on their social circumstances and so on. So you've asked us what you should do, and I can't answer that. I don't feel that I'm in the position to answer that. Really only you can answer that one. But maybe some guidance with that question. You could get some support from the maternal child health nurse. There's one at Pregnancy, Birth and Baby, which is an Australian government service. I'm guessing you're in Australia, somewhere regional in Australia. And the number should come up for you at the bottom of the screen here now. And they'll be able to talk to you about your unique needs and I think some, concerns that you might have, and work out maybe a potential for counselling to work through that the situation that you've raised about telling your family, and perhaps that adjustment around some cultural changes and challenges as well. I'm guessing it's been a challenge as well to settle into a new place, coming to a regional area, and the cultural differences which I've pointed out, and that separation from your family and friends is huge as well. And, embarking on your life in a regional town, I can say from experience, is not easy. So, I hope that you have some friends or family that, you can speak to for some support and about some concerns that you have about family planning. As well as that, I think that you could draw on that strength of moving away from where you come from. You've got some resilience and strength there. So, drawing on that to get through this at the moment. Katie and Katelyn have both had some experiences and some interest in this area as well. So I thought maybe we could include them in the conversation here.
Definitely.
So
Well,
Jane,
Katie, you would think obviously she's putting thought into it, because a lot of people who just want to have a baby, just can go down the back alley and get up the duff with someone at the nightclub. It can happen, has happened.
That's a way to put it.
But she's obviously pre-planning, like she's really considering this. What do you think?
And I think that's kind of important going into parenthood, is to, if you have the luxury to do so, to plan to do so, because it's a lot. Your life is completely changed with a baby. I mean, it's not just, oh, baby arrives, grab some diapers and some formula, and that's it. You have to really kind of consider, well, can I handle this financially? Can I handle this emotionally? Can I handle this physically even? Some women or uterus havers can't even handle carrying a pregnancy. So I think it's really important that before you go further into this, to maybe get your checkup, get an annual, and make sure everything is up to par and that you're ready to go. There's some really, I know here in the US, there are some amazing fertility clinics that are just willing to work with you on payment plans and counseling and everything else that comes along with IVF. And there is a lot that goes with it. And personally have never gone through IVF. I have experience through friends. However, Katelyn has more personal experience with it. So I'm going to hand that part off to her.
Yeah, so we started going down the road of IVF because we weren't able to conceive naturally. And again, here in the States, it's some of the clinics have those payment plans and things. And, without using donor sperm, you don't have to pay for that aspect. It comes out to be about $5,000 for a single round of IVF. But there's additional testing that needs to be completed first. And always having a mental health provider in your corner is very important. I can't stress that enough. Having someone that you can share how you feel, that you can talk to about all of the crazy, scary emotions that come along with becoming a parent or your desire to become a parent. And, you know, Jane, I really wish that you would have allowed for us to know your age. That's one of the questions that I had, seeing your question for Sandy and for us as the panelists. Because I was 33 years old when we started doing this, and I had that very same, you know, my clock is ticking, I'm running out of time, I have to do this now, we have to do this now, I'm not going to have forever. And we were getting ready to start our IVF. Everything else had been done. I went in for my last round of labs before we started the medication for the harvest, and we were told that we conceived naturally. They called me. Well, they called me and said, "I'm sorry, but we're not going to be able to start the meds for IVF." And I was at work, and I just started sobbing. I go, "What do you mean? What's wrong with me? What's going on?" And she goes, "Well, honey, you're like 8 days pregnant."
Oh, that's
So,
amazing.
I mean, we were very, very lucky, but I I really could never have made it through everything leading up to that point without a counselor, without, you know, someone to lean on. So I think if Jane is really considering going into this alone, she needs to make sure that she has a support system established. And, you know, I know the cultural implications with her family are much larger than what I can comprehend. You know, I went into this not being married yet, knowing that I was having a child out of wedlock, and knowing that my parents were going to love me. My family, my grandparents are still here. They were going to love me and my child regardless. But I
Well, I
know in
went
a
through
lot of
IVF.
cultures, that's not the same.
Yeah, as a single parent who went through IVF, Luke, maybe you have more insight on this.
Oh, look, my IVF experience, I'm actually going through it again now, but I won't go into detail on that. When I was going,
Drop that
trying to
on
have
us
my
today.
child, I went through IVF using a surrogate and an egg donor. It was quite a stressful experience for me, so I can only imagine how it was for the women that were actually, the one carrying, even the egg donor, because you just pump full of hormones. It cost me Australian dollars around 50,000. That was with adhering to the Surrogacy Act here in Queensland, of going through counselling, going through legal advice, and then also the IVF, the egg donor, and everything on top. It come to a pretty penny, and it ended in a miscarriage. And that's something you got to prepare for too. It can be quite a traumatic experience. And I might throw to Vera quickly, and then we'll go to Stevie.
I just want to add here, as somebody who went through the whole biological clock thing, and I do understand the societal pressures to couple up and to reproduce. But if you choose to get through this and not reproduce, that's okay too.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes the thought of raising a child by yourself is daunting and intimidating, and my hat's off to you, Luke, but it's okay to get to the other side and not do it too.
That is an amazing point. I feel like
Absolutely.
women have a lot of pressure on them that they, like Vera said, to get married and to have babies and settle down and do the whole housewife thing. And you know what? It's 2020. You don't have to do that. If you decide, Jane, that this was a nice thought and you've worked everything through it and you've decided maybe this isn't for me, totally fine. And you know what? I know a lot of women who have babies later in life too. So if you're in your early 30s and you want to wait maybe closer to your 40s, there is still options for you. There really is. You're not in a rush.
What do
So
you think, Stevie?
All right, well, I'm just going to speak as someone who has no children, no desire for children, but I do work with children. So I see, I guess, the after effects of how their parents raise them, etc., etc. The only thing I would say is that if you are financially, mentally, and emotionally stable enough by yourself to do it by yourself, then why not? So you can't, as we were saying, it is 2020. You don't need to have a partner to do it. If you can give that child everything that child is going to need to be a happy, healthy individual, then there's no reason not to. You've already made a big step coming to a different country and hopefully creating a new family for yourself with friends and workmates, all that kind of stuff. So if you've got that strong support base behind you, there should be no reason that you can't do it.
that was another point I was going to bring up. If your family, your biological family doesn't want to support you, there is no, like, you don't have to stay with them. You can cut your family off. I know it's difficult. I know it's heartbreaking, but you don't owe them anything. You
Take
can
it from
create,
take it from two gay guys, you know, like
you
family,
can
and it's
create
not
your
even,
own family.
yeah, it's not
And
even a gay thing. Family is what you create around you. You can be born
absolutely.
into a family, but you choose who your family is. So
Absolutely. So if you've got a, like Steve said, if you've got a strong support system around you, but your biological family's not with it and you still feel ready to go, we hope to hear an update from you. We hope that maybe you're pregnant or maybe you've decided not to and that you're happy. That's all we want from you.
Okay, I'm going to move it along, guys. So we've got a varied range of topics here. I think we should touch on this one next. This is from um, a, a male in New South Wales, actually your state, Stevie. Dear Sandy and panel, I have grave fears my partner is a narcissist. I've been researching online and all the signs are there. I constantly am walking on eggshells and I'm at the point I overthink everything I'm about to say because I'm scared it will be twisted into something else and there will be a fight. Often, when we fight, my partner disappears for hours and even once days and will not talk to me. I love my partner so much and I don't feel I can have the strength to leave. My friends and family have stopped bothering to even talk to me about it, and even I find avoid me at times. What do I do? Lyle from Albury. Okay, well, Sandy, what do you think
Okay.
Lyle should do?
All right. Um, well, hello, Lyle. I just have to say from the outset here that love should not hurt. This view has been part of the Australian campaign to end domestic violence, and I want that to, I really want to reiterate that here, that love should not hurt. And from what you've said here, I'm going to come right out and just say this, that it does sound like you're experiencing domestic violence. And I guess we could postulate that your partner may meet criteria for a cluster B personality disorder, but that's not for me to decide. Um, I think the other thing I've noted in your story is that it's not easy working through a difficult relationship like this without the support of your friends and family. And you've said that, your friends and family you feel have sort of given up or not bothered so much with your situation now. So I'm wondering if reaching out to a professional support at the moment might be a good place to start, given how challenging the situation sounds like it is for you. A really good place to start with that support is DB Connect in Australia. You said you're from New South Wales. So they're an Australian service and they provide 24/7 domestic violence assistance. They can provide brief counselling as well. And they can also link you with services such as accommodation if you need to get out, if things are difficult. Lifeline might also be able to provide some counselling and support for your situation, especially when things get quite heated. As you said, you feel like you're walking on eggshells and whatnot. They could, be a really good ear, but also provide some really practical support around where to go, who to speak to. I know one of our panel members, actually, Luke, has had a lived experience similar here. And if he's comfortable to share, maybe some of the things that he did to help himself through this and some of the supports that he had, that lived experience might be really helpful to bring in here.
Absolutely. Look, Lyle, this is almost like it's just the thing is when you're in a situation like that with an abusive partner and you hear the same story from everybody, the perpetrator is actually quite unremarkable. They're very similar in the way that they approach the way they abuse people. Look, the only answer is at the end of the day is that there's no salvaging anything and you have to get out. The issue is though, and you've already got the insight there that you've said that you don't think you can leave. And I've been there as well, where I just feel like I was so dependent. I was so, couldn't imagine my life without my partner. Um, and I stayed in it and stayed in it and stayed in it. And eventually it just was eroding away my self esteem. It's taken a long time for me to just get back up. And you could reach that point or you could reach an even lower point because unfortunately, if your partner actually is a narcissist, which you fear, you could end up dead. So you need to really access these services now and get some support, because I also know what it's like when people get sick of hearing the same old story, and it's just like, well, you didn't listen to my advice, so I'm not going to tell you again. And I know what that's like, but when you're in it, you're in it. It's an addiction, and you're not going to just get out easily. I'm not sure who else would love to comment on this situation.
I'd like to comment, and then I'll throw it to Katelyn. Make a plan, okay? Because you've acknowledged that there's danger. So to you, your heart is in it, but your head is like, this isn't safe for me. I need to leave. You need to listen to your head this time, okay? Because like Luke said, it can get very, very dangerous. Abusers tend to escalate. They don't tend to just, get better. It gets worse. There are resources at the bottom of the screen. Call them. They will help you make a plan and leave. And your family and friends will come around when you leave. They will try to protect you, and they will support you. And I know right now it feels hopeless because they've probably gotten sick of hearing this over and over and over, as you've said. But in the end, these are the people that love you, and they want you safe, and they want you happy, and they want you healthy. And if you tell them, I'm leaving, I need you, I very much hope they would come around to help you make the plan and help you leave. But do not stay. There's not love. It's not reciprocal. And like Sandy said, love shouldn't hurt. You need to get out.
We'll turn to Katelyn.
So it's all too close to home. So I was living with a man here in the US that was, 45 minutes away from my family. He had 3 small children that I was taking care of full time. I was working full time. He would refuse to go to work. He would refuse to participate in the care of his own children, refuse to acknowledge I was his partner. And anytime I so much as breathed a word of any displeasure with him, I was the problem. I was the enemy. I was the monster. And it created this toxic environment until it became physical. And no matter how many times I talked to my family, they kept telling me the same thing again and again until it got to be a broken record. And I felt like they didn't want to hear it, so I wouldn't tell them. And then he put me through a door, and I looked into the faces of the 3 kids, and I made a plan that day. And it was almost too late. And you can't wait to make your plan. You have to have a plan. You need to start talking to someone now, and have someone there that is a professional, that, is unbiased. They don't know you. They don't know your partner, that you can go to get that strength back, to find the strength and love for yourself, to be able to get out of your terrible situation until you're to a part where it is too late. Utilize those resources. And like Katie said, your family will be there. My family was sick of my excuses about why I couldn't come to family functions, why I wasn't there for them, why I wasn't my normal self. They were fed up with me. But when I called my parents and said, I've got an hour until he gets home, I need you to come here, and we need to get everything that matters to me out of this house, they dropped everything and showed up. And you just have to believe they will.
Sorry, Vera, I couldn't unmute you.
I really haven't been in this situation. I'm really not sure that I can comment, but I do know love shouldn't hurt. You just need to go.
Yeah, look, I think that especially in the gay world, this is a topic that is very, very rarely discussed because it's already, considered taboo what goes on behind closed doors. But as Sandy said, love shouldn't hurt, and you have to ask yourself, are those the actions of someone that actually really loves you? You may have all this love for someone, but if that's what they're giving back to you, that's not great. And that's the problem with emotional abuse, is it doesn't leave visible scars. You end up, chipping away at your self-esteem and your self-worth and your family and all that kind of stuff. And you get nothing in return. There's nothing you can show for it. I have been on both sides of this. So there are certain points where your family goes, oh, that's enough. You're putting yourself in that situation. But sometimes you feel like you can't get out of it. You have so much love or dependence, but you've got to love yourself more than the person that obviously doesn't love you.
Absolutely.
Mm,
Alrighty. I think that was really good advice. But yeah, at
yeah.
the end of the day, there's you got to cauterize. It's no salving that. If it's
No.
abusive, um, definitely just don't hesitate. Okay, our next question is from a viewer who has signed as Bella. So here we are. All right, this is a long one. Um, I'll read it out best I can. I'm currently living in Queensland housing. I suffer from PTSD and anxiety as well as Asperger's. I live in a complex that I was not allowed to turn down. My dream car is being vandalized weekly and looks like crap after 7 months of owning it and 3 months of living here. Yesterday, I found brown crap smeared on my back passenger door. Something has been scratched into it. It's been keyed and kicked and sat on. Yesterday, I found my daughter eating cat shit in my courtyard. I don't have a cat. My neighbors clean their kitty litter in their courtyard, which is just brick, no grass, and they hosed it into my yard. I also have to deal with constant fighting, people pushing me to give them smokes, green, and money. Some asking me to buy green for them. I guess they ticked up. I don't know what that means, but we have several dealers in the complex alone, but more in the street. They try to get me to buy meat and appliances, and they sometimes will keep coming back till I say yes or yell at them. I deal with needles being used and found in car park. I have a constant stream of door knockers waking up my baby. And there's a second part here. I went to the paper about it and got abused by one of the junkies. Lucky I had bad hearing and Asperger's as I didn't realize I was getting in trouble till after, when I thought about it. It's just constant drama. Housing and police keep telling me to do their job, write reports, take photos and surveillance. We have to tell police we see a gun or knife to get them to come here. They are yet to attempt to help us. Daily, I'm saddened seeing my car. I'm triggered constantly and have even hallucinated. Anxiety is so severe and have bouts of anger and lost memory is becoming more and more. I can't stand strange men near me and they just hover like bad smells. I don't feel like I have any personal space. I feel lost and I can't stop the things causing my issues, which is a trigger itself. I don't know if I'm handling it the right way. I don't know what to do. Thanks, Bella in CQ. And I need to take down that other banner quickly before I switch to Sandy to respond to Bella.
Okay, there is a lot there, and the main theme for me is you're feeling quite helpless and hopeless to get out of this situation. A lot of times things are against your will, and you are having to live in a place that you're unhappy. It sounds like an incredibly challenging situation, and it sounds like it is very poorly managed by the government departments that are involved. Our home should be a safe and comfortable space. And in your part of the world, in CQ, you should be able to enjoy this with peace, quiet, enjoyment, which is part of the Queensland Tenancy Act. So my professional opinion here is that you should be receiving advocacy instead of being expected to advocate for yourself, particularly given the potential of risk and harm that is presented by your neighbours, and the sort of consequent living conditions for yourself and your daughter that you highlighted. I would actually encourage you to raise this issue with your local state member. So, for example, Luke's local member is a guy named Barry O'Rourke, and he has a background working in the housing department. So someone like this would be a good place to start. I'd also encourage you to reach out to a guy named Jason Clare, who is the Federal Shadow Minister for Housing in Australia. So he recently went public on the deplorable conditions of public housing in Australia, and he seems like he's actually genuinely and deeply committed to improving the housing system. So I think that your case would be of particular interest to him. And I'm sure you've already done so, but just in case, I would also encourage that you raise this with your local housing service centre. If you follow the webpage that I think Luke might be able to pop up on the screen for you, you'll be directed to the contact details for them, and everything that you've put in, your contribution here and your question here for us. I think that that's something that they need to know about if you're comfortable to share with them. You know, it sounds like this has all been extremely challenging for you, Bella, but you sound like you're a real fighter, and, you know, you've shown a lot of strength and resilience in standing up for yourself, going to your local paper, and raising it here and being brave and talking about the issues in housing, which we all know is a structural issue in society and something that we can all do something about as well. But, you know, we all need support, and as much as you're a fighter and very resilient, it sounds like you could do with the support of your community right now. So I wish you all the best in working through this, and I hope for the best outcomes for you and your daughter and your family. And I do hope that these people in positions of power, these politicians, listen to this lived experience of housing issues in Australia, particularly regional Australia if you're in CQ. So is there anything from other panel members on that one?
I'd just like to say that if you're facing a similar situation here in the States, that there are many advocacy groups you can reach out to. You know, if you had Asperger's, you could reach out through the Asperger's Association. If you go in for counseling to any mental health clinic, you can ask for advocacy assistance. So there are agencies around that are willing to stick their neck out and help people in similar situations. Don't hesitate to ask.
There's also fair housing acts that protect tenants from things like this. You can reach out to your local fair housing authority. They can help you. I know that with public housing, there can be long wait lists, and sometimes it's just not an option and you have nowhere else to go. But there are fair housing authority members there to assist you with things like this. And as Sandy has said, reach out to these people. They want to help.
I also think that if you're in a complex, that there are other people that are experiencing the same problems that you are, and people are, you know, looking for a solution, I would see if there are any of the neighbors that you could reach out to, that you could band together with, because there is safety in that, you know, we look out for each other mentality, and that, you know, bringing people together, safety in numbers, in essence, be another option.
Yeah, look, I think you're already on the right track. If you're asking us, then you know in your gut that something is definitely not right. Sadly, no one's going to do it for you. You need to kick and scream and keep doing it until somebody listens, no matter what happens. There's, as Luke said, there's all this stuff that popping up down the bottom. Sandy gave great advice, but obviously the fact that there's a child involved, that is the main priority. You've listed all this stuff that you've got going on, but that child and their well-being should be the forefront of the issue in my heart at the moment. Anyway, you've made the decision to look after that child and put that child first. So make sure that, you know, you kick and scream until everyone listens.
Yeah, and I really like this suggestion from, I think it was Katelyn, to say to look for other neighbours who may be going, hey, you know what, Bella, I'm seeing the same thing and I'm finding it quite challenging, because everything that come through in your question for us was extremely deficit. So I do wonder if there is anything, and I know that your situation might have you thinking that way. I can totally, you know, see that. But, you know, if there's anything or anyone around you that can help. And I think what Steve said is, you know, that doing it yourself. And I do think you need advocacy. I think that there's, you know, opportunity here for you to be advocated for. But definitely from that strengths focus here, looking at, you know, what you bring to the table, and you seem like a real fighter. So I really do wish you all the best.
Okay, our next letter is from a mother that's saying, my husband passed away from liver cirrhosis. Growing up, my children were always very upset by his drinking and would often be too embarrassed to have friends over. I've seen now my son and daughter doing the same behavior of excessive drinking, and I'm scared they will suffer the same fate. What can I do? Anxious about alcoholics.
Yeah, so this is, again, another one of those situations where there's addictions, or, you know, there's something that's been happening that is quite challenging in the family that sounds like it's intergenerational as well. So, you know, something that is passed down. I personally haven't worked in this area, with addictions, but my recommendation here would be to seek the support if you're in Australia of AODS or ATODS, they're called, so the Alcohol, Tobacco and Other Drug Services. That's an Australian government provided service. Often, free of charge as well, to seek their support and their advice, on what to do around, your observations of this in your children as well. And I think for yourself, taking care of yourself is really important here. Obviously this has affected you and now your kids. So I think that, reaching out for support and some of the details we provided earlier, such as Lifeline, and you can see Reach Out now on your screen, are good places to start. Wondering if anyone else has anything to contribute here from the panel.
Experience with this. Oh, I guess I was muted. I don't have any real personal experience with this, but I know Alcoholics Anonymous is a great resource for U.S. viewers or anyone else dealing with this. You can also reach out to a. So I actually don't know. Honestly, I'm going to be quite frank here. The only resource I know of is Alcoholics Anonymous, and I do know that there's a lot of support in that. I do know some people who have had great success with the 12-step program with it. And maybe it's time to have a real frank conversation with your children about what's going on. If they grew up really affected by this,
Well,
and
my
now
issue here is that because it is intergenerational, they've already had you can't really give them the scare because they've seen dad die from liver cirrhosis. So
Well,
it's
I
bigger
think
than that.
well, it's not so much like giving them a scare. It's a mother reaching out to her children and saying, hey, I see a lot of the same patterns in your father that in you right now. And I don't want to go through that same situation with you. If you need help, I want to help you. I want to support you.
exactly. I would be interested to know if her children have children at the moment, because I think when they see that behavior modeled back at them, or they know how their children feel. Do you know what I mean? And that's interesting. I don't know whether they're at the point where they could actually get some kind of family counseling. Maybe it's all a grief process that they're turning to the thing that they know, like killed their dad, but also he used to cope. It was a coping mechanism for him. I'm going to go back to a very old quote that Oprah used to use. It's that when you know better, you do better. So hopefully that they will recognize the parts that they didn't love in their father growing up. And yeah, when they see that modeled back at them, usually that's a bit of a kickstarter to go, hey, there's a big issue here and I need to work on it.
Here in the state,
You're right, go Vera.
here in the States, there's a couple of different organizations that are associated with Alcoholics Anonymous. There's Al-Anon, which is for spouses and partners of addicted people. And it can help with grief counseling. It can help with other things. There's also Elateen, which is dedicated to children, teenage children of alcoholic parents, that also teaches coping skills and helps them stop making the same mistakes as their parent. Any mental health clinic in any country will probably help you deal with these issues as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Vera. I think that Katelyn was saying something. Sorry.
That's okay. I really just wanted to piggyback on what Steve had said, that, when you know better, you do better. And rather than trying to scare them or have something that, alters that way of thought, it's hard for a parent to tell their children, hey, I think you're kind of messing up. And there's no delicate way to say it. And I think I'm curious as to whether or not they have children as well, because I know that I liked wine a lot more before I was a mom. And then I had a child and I went, oh, this isn't good. And so I think that, maybe helping your children to find an alternate coping mechanism or a different way to release those frustrations and, embody their good side and develop a healthier way than turning to alcohol might be better than pointing out that you see them headed down the same road as their father.
Mm.
I think for the person who did write this letter, though, the organization Vera has listed, and you can obviously find the Australian organizations just by typing in Al-Anon into Google. I just have now, and it came up. They support family members that are dealing with an alcoholic family member, and they
Yeah.
will give you the tools, because you're not going to be able to stop them yourself. It's just not going to happen. Um, and the addiction, really, they need to come to a point where they want to stop the addiction as well. So just get support for yourself, so you have the resources and tools there at your disposal to get you through this, because that's their journey as well. Like, I know you're there watching on, um, but you just need to look after you, because this is affecting you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what I was going to say something similar to Caitlin around, we need to look at addictions as, part of it is the coping. It's a coping mechanism, but then there's the very real thing of a substance involved here. It's alcohol, and trying to break an alcohol addiction is really, really difficult, especially when, it's so heavily interrelated with other coping mechanisms. So it's something that's a slow process of deconstructing. It usually involves a lot of therapy. There's a lot of detoxing that happens as well. So physically, there's a lot that happens. So this is a really complex one. And I think, what Lucas said around making sure that you've got support for yourself to walk this journey with your kids. You obviously love them, you care about them, you want the best for them. You have all seen what the difficult outcome of alcohol addiction is. So reaching out for those supports, I would highly recommend a conversation with AODS or ATODS, dependent where you are. If you're in Australia, they will speak to family members. They'll do it at the drop of a hat. They'll do outreach work. They will come to you. We just want a society that is living the best healthy lives that they can. So would really recommend that.
This is our last question. I'm going to get straight into it, and then I'll throw to Steve first, because I know he's got somewhere to be, and then we will. Okay, this is a very long one. It's 4 pages, so I'm going to read it as quick as I can. I'd always grown up very distant from my dad's side of the family, but they always gushed over my sister. I never knew why and didn't think much of it. Mum and dad had split when I was in 2nd grade, so didn't think much of it. They just weren't my people, which was a stark contrast to my mum's side of the family. My mum had me at 15, and her parents treated me almost like their 4th child. They were in their 40s. Cut to me at 41. My younger brother randomly stops by for a visit. He knows I hate impromptu visits, but he looks shaken. He tells me he wants to tell me something, but can't. He asked me to guess. My first guess was my dad is not my dad. He asked me why I thought that. I told him I remember finding my baby book and how my father's name was scribbled out so much that it tore the paper. And one day when I asked my grandma why I had mum's maiden name, she answered, "We didn't want your dad to have anything to do with you." Okay, page 2. So my brother is upset and tells me to stop by his place the next day. I do, and he tells me our sister was drunk and, having been arguing with our mum, told my brother that she won't even tell me that Mike isn't even his father. She got drunk at some party when she was 14 and had sex with 2 Mexican men. My brother told me this and was all, "You're Mexican. Mike is not your father." Next was to find out who my dad really was. My brother told me he was dead and that my sister had seen the obituary. We knew Mum would lie. We decided I should take a DNA test. DNA test comes back. Of course, I'm high in Scottish, Scandinavian, but also Spanish, Portuguese, Native American. I now had the proof. I finally called Mum and told her that I took a DNA test and had these Hispanic relatives I didn't know. I could tell she sounded shocked. "Oh, someone just pulled into the driveway. I'll call you back tomorrow." Then she immediately called my sister. She was mad. I began looking up my Hispanic relatives. I find a cousin, Renee, who lives close, and my brother knows her as a secretary in his buddy's office at Finlay University. I tell her a shorter story of what I told you, and she, along with her mother, mail me later that day, "My dad is John Cardenas. I look too much like him. I was linked to his obituary, and oh my god, I never looked so much like family. It was so surreal and also hurtful. Who was this guy, these cousins?" Mum had spies on me for a while until she finally admitted my dad was John Cardenas, but to not tell my brother or stepfather, she told me. I told her I'd already figured it out. She asked if I was speaking with that girl, my cousin Renee. When I told her I was speaking with the brother, she was shocked. And when I told her his name on the phone, I could tell she searched him on Facebook because she said, rather hurt, I always thought you looked like me. My Mexican side has been so welcoming because of COVID. I haven't got to meet anyone face to face. I have recovered nicely. I don't have a question other than maybe if I handled this well. Signed, paternity peril. Oh,
Wow.
okay, Steve.
That
Take it
was a
away.
lot.
It was a lot. I was trying to
Um,
follow on, but
yeah, it's a lot. I think that you're always gonna have questions. I've had a friend who's gone through something not as dramatic, but very similar with finding his father, who then passed away within about 18 months of him finding him as an adult. The most important thing, I think, is that you can learn to, I guess, forgive. You're never going to forget what happened, but I think there's a lot to be said for empathy. Hurt people hurt people. Obviously, that's a saying for a reason. Your mum probably did as best as she knew how to do. So there's no point in really dwelling on the past because it's not going to change anything. I think you're doing the right thing by trying to find out a little bit more about who you are if you feel like you're not being represented or supported, or you need to find some kind of link. I would probably suggest that you do speak to someone about grief or loss, because you've looked for this person and now you've never known them and now they're gone, and you're never going to get answers that you want. So good luck. That's a lot, but you sound like you've got it fairly sorted. So yeah, all I can say is good luck.
all right, I'll throw to Sandy. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, thank you very much, Steve. I think that mirrored a lot of my own thinking as well. My first impression was, wow, yeah, that's a lot that has happened for you, and changes in your family unit, and the dynamic of everything has changed as well with the family that you've grown up with. To learn these new things is it could be, yeah, quite shocking. So I do agree with, some support around that grief and loss cycle, and the changes that you'll be going through. We don't have a pseudonym for you, and I'm big on that. So I'm going to call you Rob, so I have someone to talk to, something more personable.
It's better than paternity peril.
Yeah, it's just a social work thing, it's just good to be able to connect on that level. So you've asked the panel if you thought we handled your situation well. And honestly, I think you're getting the flavour of how I respond to you is I can't answer that for you. You write your own story, on your life. It's your journey and it's not my place to judge. So from what you've shared, though, in your narrative, it sounds like there have been many positives, though, to finding out that you do have other family. You seem to have embraced this well, and it sounds like they've embraced you too. It's a shame about COVID, creating a barrier there for getting to know them a little bit better, but it sounds like you're very much on the starting journey. And it sounds unfortunate that your biological dad has passed. Perhaps this provides an opportunity, though, to speak to the people around him and get to know him a little bit through them. I also note in your story something about your mum. There was something quite difficult that had happened for her in terms of conceiving at 14. I mean, in Australia, that would be considered statutory rape. So that could be a reason as well. I'm guessing that your mum may not have wanted to be so forthcoming with this. It's something that may have been quite shameful, maybe. She may have some history there with that. So I'm guessing everyone has their reasons, for not disclosing things and keeping things private as well. There are positive aspects to your discovery also, though. You may feel like there's issues now, though, with your family that you grew up with around deceit, and some trust stuff that may come up as well, which is often what we see in these scenarios. So that would obviously be something that I would recommend some support with, and perhaps, moving forward together as a family, especially since you have more family now, and adjusting to having all of these people in your life. In terms of further support, there is a place called the MPE Fellowship. MPE stands for I'm trying to look at my notes here. So non-parental event. This is when the presumed to be parent has been proven through DNA testing not to be the true biological parent. And the MPE fellowship provides support and advocacy for people who have experienced this. So this might be something for you to consider in terms of some support, and other people who've had this lived experience too. I think this is a way to connect with them and do it a bit more discreetly and privately through appropriate forums. So yeah, that would probably be my take on it and my observation. And I really hope that there's a lot of positive and good and joy that comes from seeing these new family. And I hope that you and your existing family that you grew up with can move through this and, you know, do this all together and have a positive outcome.
I'd like to go to Vera.
Carnal, welcome to the tribe. We're some very fine people.
All right, well, Katie, do you have anything for potato? I think Sandy and Steve sort of hit it all on the head.
Pretty
But
much. The only thing
I
I
think
could
so.
think is,
Yep.
you know, pedaling back on what Steve said, forgive. And obviously you'll never forget, but you know, these are the people you've been with your whole life. So you, just because you have new members of your family, don't forget your old ones too. They do love you. This is who you grew up with. They want to support you, and embrace the new family. Obviously, I mean, the more the merrier. And then these people clearly want to embrace you too. So let these people into your life. There's room for everyone. And I like counseling. I think counseling is pretty much good for almost everything, honestly. And just kind of work through, you've been through trauma. This is traumatic, learning that your father is not your father and your real father is dead and you're never going to form a relationship with them. I think counseling is great for this situation. Even if you have to do a little family counseling, let the whole family work through these issues. But I wish you the best, and congratulations on your new family. I hope you have long, happy lives together.
Yeah, I think Sandy really, hit it. You never know what your mom might have been up against being only 14. And I'm a firm believer that being kind goes a long way. And while it seems like you may not have been given the fairest shake from the very beginning, you do have the benefit of finding this family that has been welcoming and has kind of brought you into the fold, so to speak, with open arms, and kind of use that as a comfort. Obviously, seek out professional counseling help or support. But your question was whether or not we thought you handled it well. And from where I am, I think that you handled it very well. And I don't think that I could have been as wonderful about it as it seems you were. So much as Katie said, congratulations on finding that missing piece. And I hope that it brings you a lot of joy.
yeah, I think that's the pretty much the gist of that. Is like, eventually you'll forgive your mum if you haven't already, because I'm sure she did act from a place that wasn't with malice. It was obviously
Mm.
what she felt was her only option at the time. Because what it sounds like is that she then had a new partner who she raised you with for some time, and she just felt it was easier that it was your dad figure, and it was still your father figure. I guess that dishonesty there is sort of something that's going to be hard to shake. But always, yeah, fall back on the fact that I don't think she meant to hurt you. I really don't think that was ever her intention. I think she was just in a rock and a hard place, and it probably, snowballed then. You know, the we he believed that that was dad at age 2, and then it got too hard to tell you, and then it becomes a big thing. So yeah, just forgive, and also that organization that Sandy listed here, the non-parental event fellowship, I think is going to be a great resource for you. Um, I really had a great time today, ladies. Thank you so much.
Yes, it
Something's
was a great
happened
show.
with Katie.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh,
Yeah,
she's
some
muted.
brave people out there with some questions. And thanks for all the lived experience. I think that has come through and really made this a very wealthy kind of discussion. I mean, it's brought a lot of strengths as well to the panel. So
Yeah.
I really
thank you,
think
guys.
it's
Thank you,
important to remember
everyone.
that no matter what you're up against, you're never alone. You're not the first and you won't be the last. And the more you expand your circle and the wider you stretch your arms, the more likely you are to engulf someone that's been there, someone that has wisdom or love or guidance to offer you, whether that be a friend, a family member, a professional. You know, the best thing you can do is try to open yourself up, to put yourself out there so that you're not isolating and you're not alone.
And, reaching out to us, granted, we're perfect strangers, but that's a big step. That's your
Huge.
first step in recovery, in whatever you're recovering from or whatever journey you're about to start. So take that as a great starting point and grow from there. And we are here from you, or
I want
for
to thank
you.
the audience for engaging so well with this too, with all the questions, because there were more. But that's what I was going to ask you, Sandy. There's more questions that I just couldn't fit into this hour segment.
Mm.
Would you be willing to do this again at some time in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. I think backed up with a really good panel and a lot of sharing and a lot of discussion. I think these are really good conversations. I think they destigmatize some things, which is what we should be working towards as well. It promotes help seeking, people getting comfortable with putting their story out there. So yeah, I'm definitely down for that. Absolutely.
Thank you so much, everybody. And I'm going to throw to the credits, and then we will reconvene at the next live show. Thank you,
All
everybody.
right.
See you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.